The argument over how many people attended President Trump's swearing in has been summed up in two photos. This is an aerial shot of the National Mall during Friday's inauguration. And this is the National Mall at the same time of day during President Obama's inauguration in 2009. On Saturday, White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer accused reporters of trying to, quote, lessen the enthusiasm of the inauguration.
There's been a lot of talk in the media about the responsibility to hold Donald Trump accountable. And I'm here to tell you that it goes two ways. We're going to hold the press accountable as well. This was the largest audience to ever witness an inauguration, period, both in person and around the globe.
The fact-checking website PolitiFact claims Spicer's claim pants on fire, which means completely false. Counselor to the president, Kellyanne Conway, defended Sean Spicer yesterday.
Why did he do that? It undermines the credibility of the entire White House press office on day one.
Don't be so overly dramatic about it, Chuck. You're saying it's a falsehood, and they're giving Sean Spicer, our press secretary, gave alternative facts.
Conway also said presidents are judged by their accomplishments, not by the crowd size at their inaugurations.
Ari Fleischer served as White House press secretary for George W. Bush from 2001 to 2003, and he's with us now. Welcome. You watched that first briefing by Sean Spicer. I know he's a friend of yours, but what concerned you?
Well, what concerns me is it's one thing to take on the press, and that's a time-honored tradition in Washington, D.C.
By Republicans and Democrats.
Absolutely. Take them on, though, when you have high ground. The part about how many people showed up in the audience of the inauguration, who cares? It's not worth fighting over.
Mm-hmm. And where it took place, too.
And where it took place, meaning?
In front of, well, in terms of the question that the president did at the CIA, when he raised the question of crowd size in front of the heroes of the CIA.
One thing I think we've learned about President Trump is he is authentic. He will let it rip anywhere he is because that's what he feels. And whether he did it at the CIA or wherever he did it, I just think the fundamental issue is wrong fight. Mm-hmm. If you want to get into a fight with the press about they're trying to delegitimize his presidency, that's fair game. Mm-hmm. But a fight over who had more people at the inauguration, that's just not worth your Saturday
But
night.
he came out swinging, though, Ari. He was so strident in it. So that had to come from somewhere.
Well, look, it came from the president.
Yeah. There's no doubt in your mind about that.
As soon as Sean was speaking, my sense of Sean, who I've known for almost 20 years, he used to work in the Bush administration, was this is one of those times when you're told, get out there and fix it and do it now. And it doesn't give you time to prepare it, we'll get the facts developed the way you want to as press secretary. So he went out there and did his job, which is to represent the president. But today is part two. Today's the press's day. You're going to ask questions. Well, today he's going to get challenged on it. He's going to have to justify it and back up the statistics he used. And so my advice to Sean today is if you use a statistic that is wrong, correct it today. There's no harm done if you're press secretary and saying, I got a statistic wrong, and walk it back. Mm-hmm. If you're making a broader point about illegitimate press, make your broader point. Mm-hmm. But cool the confrontation down a notch or three.
Can you see both sides of this? Do you think the press is in any way to blame?
Well, here's where the press is to blame. First of all, they've been hostile to Donald Trump throughout, and Donald Trump's been happy to return the favor. So that's mutual. But the part about the MLK bust that they said was removed, my question here is why didn't Zeke Miller, a good reporter from Time, ask a White House official to confirm it was removed before he tweeted it? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Reporters today are too fast to hit Twitter and too slow to ask questions.
He immediately took it back.
But it's a good point. It's a good point to ask before tweeting or reporting. It's a good reminder to do that. Let me ask you, the press secretary, it's different from a campaign secretary, right? You've been White House press secretary. What is the onus, the job? Because as of your first day in the White House, you're paid by the taxpayers. Do you also represent the American people to some regard?
Well, you have three phases, frankly. When you're on a campaign, you're first talking to your primary voters. Right. Then you're talking to the American voters. And then you're talking to the world.
But when you're in the White House,
you're talking to the world, and that's a sober responsibility. At the same token, though, you are speaking for the president. Your job as press secretary is to faithfully and fully reflect the president for better or worse.
Ari, here's what you wrote in November. I don't know what changes President-elect Trump will make, but he has extraordinary latitude. If he decides to go around the press entirely, abolish the daily briefing, give seats to different reporters, appoint a combative press secretary, or not take a press board with him to dinner, the reason he'll be able to get away with it is because the mainstream media lost the trust of the American people. Yeah. Do you believe the mainstream media is in danger of losing the trust of the American people?
Charlie, according to the Gallup poll that came out in October, trust in the press to tell the news fully, fairly, and accurately is at all-time low. And this is a tragedy for the press and for the republic. It's vital the American people accept what the press is reporting as fact. And because the manner in which the press has reported the news for decades now has led to a long, steady decline in people trusting the press. It's one of the reasons the press has made it so vulnerable to whatever changes Donald Trump will make. My advice to the press is it doesn't matter if the president praises you or criticizes you. Your job is to be neutral, fair, and accurate.
Thank you.
All right, Ari, very well said. Thank you.